Welcome to Kandidly Keoshia, where positivity meets real talk. I'm your host, Keoshia, here to share my unfiltered stories, life lessons, and a whole lot of laughs. Get ready for straight talk, real laughs, and no filters. It's like chatting with your best friend who knows just how to lift your spirits. So tune in now and let's keep it real together. Hey you guys, welcome back to another episode of Kandidly Keoshia. I'm your host, Keoshia Kennard. I'm so glad you're tuning in to today's episode. So now I know we've been talking about growth for the past few weeks, but today we're going to shift gears for the month of November. As you guys know, I love to do a series, so we are diving into something deeper, something that can shake you to your core. So we're getting really, really deep in the month of November. So this episode kicks off my gratitude series. We are in the month of November. It is Thanksgiving, and we all like to be really mindful about things that we are thankful and grateful for. So I thought it would be very fitting to have a gratitude series in the month of November. And I am calling this episode Gratitude in a Crisis. So over the next few weeks, I'll be opening up about a health crisis that flipped my world upside down, you guys, back in 2016. This journey was so hard, y'all. It was scary. And sometimes I just really didn't know if I would be here today, talking to you guys. I really thought in 2016 my life was going to be extinguished and that I would no longer be here. I am so thankful and grateful to God for giving me, second chances and showing me that I need to be a little bit more grateful and live my life a little bit more. This journey was hard, you guys, but it also taught me the power of gratitude in ways I never understood before. So this gratitude series isn't about flowers and sunshine and rainbows and all of that. It has a little bit about it, but it is more about the grit, the strength you find when you're facing a crisis that you never saw coming. So before we get too deep into it, because like I said, this is going to be a episode that is a series that's going to be near and dear to my heart. It's something that I think about a lot and reflect on because, like I said, I could not be here today recording this podcast, see my children graduate from high school, see my daughter go to college, see my son become a man, see my niece have children, my sister become a grandmother, my mom become a great grandmother, me become a great niece. Like, these are things that could not have been. And so I really want to reflect on it, and I wanted to share you guys my journey with you guys in case it kind of resonates with you in some type of way. Before we get started, you guys know I always got to do an icebreaker question, and today's going to be super simple, and y'all shouldn't be surprised about the question. So the icebreaker question of the day is, what are you grateful for, right? And so when we think about gratitude and being grateful, we think about others. We don't think about being selfish when we talk about gratitude, right? And what we're grateful for. But for me, thinking back on this time in my life, knowing how far I've come, knowing where I came from, I am grateful to be alive. I am grateful to be alive. I'm not grateful for them kids. I ain't grateful for this house. I ain't grateful for no damn job. I am grateful to be here, to be able to record this podcast, to be able to get up every day and do things that I love and gripe about my job and gripe about them kids and drive here and go on brunch and go have birthday dinners and take trips. I'm just so happy that God decided to spare my life and to bless me with all the people I needed in my life while I was going through this very, very scary time. So that's what I'm grateful for. And yes, I'm gonna be scared, selfish as fuck. I don't care. With that being said, I would love for you guys to use the hashtag Kandidly Keoshia on social media or comment down below. What are you grateful for? It could be anything and everything. So I can't wait to see you guys' comments down below. But let's move on to today's episode. So you guys, this episode is super, super close to my heart. Like I told you guys before, and the reason being is because I lived through it. Like I said, I could not be here today. I could be 6 feet under or cremated, whichever I had decided back then. And I'm just forever grateful that I am able to share my story. So back in early of 2016, I was hit with something that I couldn't explain. And it sort of started the ball rolling on what eventually became my diagnosis for a lifelong disease that I will never be able to get rid of. So back in 2016, it was like January 2016, maybe a little bit before then. At my job, we don't have it anymore. It was like a health program. And so if you had they would come in every year and they would do like your BMI, your cholesterol, your weight, and a couple of other things, and they would give you points if you passed, if you went to your annual checkups, if you got your eye doctor visits, if you went to the dentist. Every time it showed up on your insurance and they paid for anything that was like a prevention of some sort, they would give you points. And I would always pass I started working there like 2007, but I don't remember when we actually started doing that. I want to say it was the first year, but I had racked up so many points. I like to rack up points so that I can buy gift cards for Christmas, because back then the girl ain't had no money, so she had to figure out how to do some Christmas somehow. So I would rack up like gift cards to pay for Christmas and stuff. And so I remember it was like, I want to say January, February, somewhere around there. The nurses come in and they do all the stuff. So they'll prick your finger, they'll take your weight and all the things. And I remember the lady was like, "Oh, you're doing so good. And you're really doing good, maintaining your weight or whatever." And she was like, "Yeah, here's your little stuff, here's all your," so they'll go through like your BMI is good. It's like 20 something or below or something like that. And then it was like your cholesterol is good. And then it was like, "Oh, your weight looks good. You're like 135. And I was like, So the 135 is what caught me, because I was like, I'm not 135, lady. It's funny how one thing can trigger everything else. You know how you ever, I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's one thing you find out and then it starts triggering other things. Like until you find out that one thing, you probably never would pay any mind, never notice anything was wrong. But it's like that one thing gets in your mind and it triggers a domino effect of everything else. And so I was like, yeah, I said, "Ma'am, I don't think I'm 135. I was like, I'm like 146. That's my norm. I'm like, I'm not 135. And she's like, "Oh, have you been dieting?" I was like, "No, I don't diet or anything like that." And she's like, "Well, no, I think our scale is pretty accurate." I was like, okay. I didn't believe it. I was like, this little ragged ass scale. I work for a pediatrician's office, so I was like, I can just go weigh myself later on one of our real scales and see how much I really weigh, okay? Because I know I ain't weighing 135. Because my normal weight at that time was between 145 to 148, 47. Sometimes I hit 150, but mostly 145, 146, somewhere around there, between there. I never really would go below 145, right? So didn't think nothing else of it. I go back to work all day. And I remember I was getting ready to leave and clocking out, and had my little paper, and I was like, oh, I was supposed to weigh myself. So I went and weighed myself on one of the scales, because we had like 6 hallways. So we had like 5 or 6 scales, right? So I went on the first scale and it said 135. And I started looking, I was like, And I was like, okay, well, let me go to another scale. I was like, because ours are pretty accurate. We calibrated. I'm like, maybe some shit going on. So I go down to the other scale, 135. So I was like, okay, I'm 135. Now, mind you, I was a runner at this time. I did run probably like 3-4 miles a day on the treadmill, just not to lose weight, not to be healthy or anything. It's more to get stressed out. During this time, I was separated from my ex. I had just finished graduating from grad school. And I was just trying to, alleviate my stress for all the things. So I was running to really get my anger out for things that I was mad about and things that was going on in my life at that time. And so I made a note and I was like, I need to call my doctor. I'm like, because I'm not dieting. And while I am running, it ain't enough running to be talking about losing no weight, because I'm still eating chips, cookies, candy, all the things, donuts. I worked at a pediatric's office, so the reps used to bring us lunch every day, and they're bringing like pasta and tacos, not no salads and shit. They bringing like food. So there's literally no way that I should be losing 10 pounds, with what I was doing. Maybe 5, not 10. Okay. Maybe 140. I don't even think I should even weigh less than that, but still. So I was kind of concerned, and I was just like, oh, I'll just call my doctor. At this time I wasn't feeling bad. There was nothing going on. I had just lost weight. Right. And, I think I remember talking to my old boss about it. He was like, yeah, you have been looking a little smaller. And I was like, but I wore scrubs to work, so I didn't really pay. My scrubs were always too big. I used to pick them up from the thrift store or go somewhere and pick them up. I always got a size bigger, or I got it bigger than what I was, because I didn't like mine to fit tight or whatever. So they was always too big. So I never really noticed, to be honest. And so he was like, yeah, you look a little smaller or whatever. He's like, but, you know, just do whatever, go to the doctor or whatever. So I remember I called my doctor and I was like, hey, I think I need to come in. I said, I really don't know what's going on or if anything is going on at all. I said, but I have lost like 10 pounds and I ain't dieting and exercise like that to lose weight. Like, that is not my goal for my running. It's more stress relief, and I'm not really doing things to lose weight. And so I absolutely loved my doctor at that time. She was fantastic. Anytime I told her something was wrong, she believed me. Anytime I told her someone right, she brought me right in. And I was the kind of patient who I didn't call unless I was sick. So she knew if I called, it was someone right. So she had got me an appointment in, and she had ran a whole bunch of tests. And she's like, I don't see anything. She's like, there's nothing. She said, you know, maybe the running is catching up with you and you just don't know. And I was like, okay, cool. So we left it like that. And, but I didn't know it at the time, but that period of uncertainty was a wake up call for me. So I want to say a couple of weeks later, I got a loud wake up call. Like, my side started hurting. And I thought it was weird because it was always a dull pain in like the same spot. And I remember I called her back. I said, hey, I'm having this pain on the side, on my left side. And I was like, it's a dull aching pain. It's like in my pelvic area. And she was like, well, could it be you're on your period or, you know, or cramps or anything? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I said, I'm not really a bad cramper or anything like that. And I was like, it's different. It's not, I can't explain it, but it's not that type of pain, right? And so she's like, okay, well, come in. And she's like, we'll, you know, do an ultrasound or x-ray or whatever they do, child. I don't know. It's so long ago, I can't really remember. But I know she did some type of test and stuff. She's like, we don't see anything. Because at that time, I know a lot of my friends were having surgery for fibroids on their ovaries or whatever. And by then I had already had 2 kids. So if they wanted to take some ovaries out and do whatever, they could do whatever they wanted to, child. Because I was sick of having periods and stuff. Anyway, I was over it. But I digress. So came in, she said she didn't see anything on the ultrasound. They don't see nothing. And so she ran a bunch of lab work and all that kind of stuff. She said, I don't see anything. So the only thing I see is you have low iron, and that's about it. So, you know, but I've always been anemic, so that was no big deal. And so after a while, you know, I started vomiting, right? Just random. I mean, when I say random, I mean random. I would go to sleep at night just fine. I don't watch the movie. We don't have dinner. We had laughs. I would just wake up in the middle of the night and feel sick and just throw up. And at first it was frequent and few in between. And I was like, well, maybe I ate something I shouldn't have ate, or maybe this is going on. Because I had got diagnosed with acid reflux as well, too. And irritable bowel syndrome or whatever. So I was just like, yeah, maybe I just ate something I wasn't supposed to eat, or, you know, too much greasy food or something. At that point I had stopped eating fried food. I think I was baking everything and, you know, just not doing dairy and stuff like that. And so I thought maybe I had ate something I wasn't supposed to eat. But then it started to get more frequent. And I'm just like, this ain't right. I don't know what it is, but it ain't right. And y'all, when I say I remember those days so clearly, I remember one minute I was working and life and everything was fine and going as it should. And the next minute I'm curled up in pain. Like I'm curled up in pain and I'm vomiting like on a regular basis. And when I say a regular basis, like 3-4 times a week. And it's so weird because it was like I would vomit and I would be fine. It wasn't like I would keep. It was like I would do that one vomit and then I'd be fine. I could work out the rest of the day. I could do whatever, not work out like workout, but like work out the rest of the day at my job, not work out. Be at home on the weekend, cooking dinner, whatever. I would just do that and then I would just go about my day. And it's so crazy because at that point, you know, my doctor had sent me to a gastro doctor and he had, like I said, he had diagnosed me with irritable bowel syndrome. He gave me like some acid reflux medicine. And I was like, sir, this stuff ain't working. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on, but this shit ain't it. I was like, this pain in my side. When I first started getting the pain in my side, it was very dull, y'all. It was very dull, but it was very constant. So it was something that wouldn't go away. And it wasn't my appendix and it wasn't my liver, my kidney, or whatever was on this side of the body, child, because I'm not a damn doctor. I don't know what the hell it was. And I just remember telling him, you know, I'm not a complainer. I'm not somebody who just be like, doing phantom sickness shit. Like, I don't have time to go to the doctor and pay all these damn copays and $50 for specialists and shit. Like, so if I come up in here, I'm like, there's something wrong with me. Like, there's something that's not right. Like, I'm not making this shit up. You know what I'm saying? And thank God I had really good doctors. Like I said, they didn't think I was making it up. They just didn't know what the fuck it was, to be honest. They just didn't want to tell me, we don't fucking know. You know how you go to the doctor and they want to do this and that, and they do. Just tell me you don't fucking know what it is. You know, I would feel so much better if you say, I don't know. You know, we're going to run these tests and hopefully we'll find out what it is. Because I told you this started in January. I didn't end up getting diagnosed till June. So I was literally in limbo to June of 2016. So imagine going through life. Everything's A-okay. You're fine. You never get sick. Because I was somebody who never got sick. Like, very rare. Didn't break bones. Never had surgeries. Nothing like that. Ever. And to go from that to being sick all the time was just really took a toll on me. It took a toll on my mental, physical health, because I was physically weak, I was mentally weak, and I was just tired, and I was sick, and I was over it. And I was like, fuck this shit. What the hell? I was so bad. You know, and I know we all have this moment and we're like, what the hell is happening? I'm literally like, my life is in chaos. I'm sick. I'm vomiting. I'm having pains. And I'm like, what the hell is going on with my life? Like, what is happening? And, you know, I'm like asking all these doctors, like, what is happening? What is going on? Help me. You know, and they're like, man, we're doing all we can. And, you know, then came the doctor visits. So once I started having the pain and once I started having the vomit, I'm literally having doctor visits with all kind of doctors. Like my primary doctor, I'm having with my gastro. Now they don't gave me to an oncologist, hematologist, because my iron was low and they saw other stuff. So they're like, maybe, you know, they didn't think I had cancer, but because they had did all the tests for like cancer and did all the scans and stuff and they didn't see anything. And so I remember my hematologist oncologist was like, okay, one test after another, nothing, just questions, like more questions. At this point, I'm like, I'm living in some kind of medical mystery movie. I'm just like, what the fuck? Am I in the Twilight Zone? Like, why in the modern medicine life, y'all don't know what the hell wrong with me? But the real kicker is when they finally said it's probably nothing major. They're like, I'm like, ma'am, how could it not be nothing major? You know, just take these medications and, you know, you might be all right. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, lady, I can't go here and be throwing up every day. I'm on FMLA because I'm so sick that sometimes I can go into work and be fine and sometimes I can't go into work. I'm like, I can't get fired. I'm a single mom with 2 kids. Like, I'm going to need y'all to figure this out. Don't tell me just take this damn medicine, take my ass home. That's not what we finna do. And like I said, even though I had really good doctors, you know, they're still doctors. They're still like, we don't know. Shit, we trying our best. And I'm just like, your best ain't good enough at this point because I'm the one suffering and you all right. You know, and I was getting frustrated and I was getting scared. You know, because me losing weight, like I told you in jail, I was 135. By the time all this going on, y'all, I dropped another 10 pounds. I was 125 at fucking 35, 5'6" at 125. That's not a healthy weight and not a good look. Like, I look like a crackhead. I mean, not to talk about crackheads or nothing, but I look like one. Like, I looked like I was on that stuff, like I was smoking dope, okay? And I ain't like it. And, you know, at this point, me and my ex was separated. I remember Jalen's birthday was in May, and we had her birthday party at her mom's house. And they hadn't seen me since I've been sick. I had already told my ex that I was sick and that I didn't know what was wrong with me. And like I said, I'm still at this point, like I could die. I mean, I could lose my life. I'm literally wilting away right before my eyes. Like if I'm wilting away right before my eyes, imagine what other people are seeing, right? And I told him I was sick and I didn't know what was wrong with me or whatever. And I remember the first time his family saw me, he had Jalen's 10th birthday at his mom's house. And I went and I remember I had this tank top and these shorts. And at this point, I'm wearing like a fucking 0, like a 0 or 2, like small, like skinny small. And I remember I had to chuck all my clothes, I had to buy all new clothes, and because everything was just swimming. I was just swimming in clothes, or it didn't fit, or it was falling off. And so I remember I had just bought these shorts and this tank top at the thrift store, and I went to, it was like summertime, it was hot, so she had like a pool party situation. And I remember going, and I remember him after the party, you know, we did the party and we did everything. And I remember after the party, he called me. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. At the party, he called me and he was like, Keoshia, are you telling me everything that's wrong with me? He's like, tell me what is really wrong with you. Because at this point, he thought that I was lying, and he thought that I had cancer or something and didn't want to tell him, trying to, how some people find out their diagnosis and then they don't want people to know. He was literally like, Keoshia, he's like, you have to tell me. He's like, I can't live, knowing that you may not. He's like, we may be going through a divorce. We may, not be together, but I literally need you to tell me what is wrong with you. Like, what is really wrong with you? Like, do you have cancer? What is it? And I was like, where's this coming from? I told you I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm dead serious. He's like, my families are asking me, like, are you on drugs or do you have cancer or what is the problem? I'm like, okay, I'm not on drugs. Number one, I'm not a crack fiend. I'm not a dope head. I'm not smoking crack. Okay. I've never done drugs and I don't plan on doing any. And I was like, I honestly don't know. I said, I do not have cancer. I do not have sickle cell anemia. I do not have lupus. They don't know. I don't know. And he was like, okay. He's like, I just really need, if you find out, like, tell me. Don't wait till the last minute to tell me you have cancer or leukemia or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And he's just really scared. And of course, that freaked me out. And I'm over here about to damn cry. And I'm about to cry now. Because like I said, in that time, it's so clear. The emotions are so strong. Remembering, like, if they're scared for me and I'm scared for me, the fact that I'm scared for me, but others on the outside, and I have not said anything. I never said anything to his mom or his brother or any of his family member. And like I said, they didn't see me into the birthday party. If they're scared for me with just looking at me, like, I'm terrified at this point. I'm literally terrified at this point, thinking that maybe they misdiagnosed me. Maybe I do got cancer. Maybe I do got leukemia. I don't know, at this point. And I remember I had went to Atlanta to my cousin's, I don't know what my cousin had. I don't know if it was I think it was a Memorial Day thing. I think it was Memorial Day. So it was in May. And we went and I had on this bathing suit. And I remember I put it on, and me being used to seeing myself fully clothed. Like, so most people saw me fully clothed. Nobody ever saw me like in a bathing suit or anything since I had got sick or whatever. And I remember I had on this bathing suit and I came out to the pool, and how quiet it got. I mean, I literally was sticks and bone, like sunken clavicles, sunken eye sockets. Like, I have this picture, and if I can find it, I will pop it up here. So you have to watch the video podcast if you guys would really want to see how I looked. Like, this picture is a good depiction of how sick I was, and still not knowing what was wrong with me, but knowing something was wrong with me. Yet I could not get a diagnosis. Yet they could not tell me what was wrong with me. I even went as far as my hematologist gave me a bone marrow biopsy. And if you guys ever had a bone marrow biopsy, that's like one of the most painful things you can go through at my young age, because kids, they put to sleep. Older people have brittle bones, but young people have really good, strong bones, and they don't put adults to sleep. And I remember asking my cousin, who's a doctor, telling her, hey, they don't know what it is, so they want to do a bone marrow biopsy. Just make sure I don't have sickle cell anemia or leukemia or whatever, like you said. So this is why I was telling my ex that I didn't have any of that, because I had already had all those tests already. And I remember taking my son. And to this day, I'm still mad at my cousin, because like I said, she's a doctor, and she knew the magnitude of that test, and she knew how much that test would hurt. And if I would have known then what I know now, I would have never took my son with me. He was 16 at the time, and I needed a designated driver. My mom was at work, and my ex was at work, and he was the only one available, and he had just learned how to drive. So I was like, I could, do whatever, got his license and stuff. And I took him to the hospital with me to get the bone marrow biopsy. And the lady was like, so the procedure is we'll, numb you in the butt area. We'll cut a little section and we'll drill down to your bone, and then we'll aspirate out some marrow and some blood, and then we'll test it for all the things. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm thinking it's nothing. Because my cousin told me it ain't nothing, because she ain't shit. Okay? Every time I say you ain't shit, she ain't shit. And if you ever had a bone marrow biopsy, you know that she ain't shit for lying to me, right? And so one thing about bone is you cannot numb bone. You cannot numb bone. So I still, to this day, can feel the drill slipping off of my bone because it's so hard. Like slipping. And I remember them sticking the needle in and pulling the marrow out. And when I say that was I don't have 2 children at this point. Now, mind you, I've never had any surgery, but I did have children. That hurt more than having kids. That hurt more than having my wisdom teeth out. Like, that pain was absolutely excruciating. And I was so mad at my cousin. I was mad at them folks. I said, man, why you didn't tell me that this was going to hurt like this? I said, I got my 16-year-old son out here probably think I'm finna die. The way I'm yelling and screaming and hollering like somebody's murdering me in this room. And he's sitting outside this door and he can hear everything. I said, I would have bought somebody else if I knew it was going to be like this. I probably couldn't have brought my ex either because he probably would have been out there freaking out. But still, like, they need to warn people because the way that pain was on another level of not being able to imagine. If that's how breaking a bone and something else, I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't want no parts of it. Let me just tell you that. It was terrifying and it hurt all the same. But it did give me some answers. I didn't have lupus. I didn't have sickle cell anemia. I didn't have cancer. I didn't have leukemia. So that was good, but they still didn't know what it was. So then in the summer of 2016, I ended up in the hospital, you guys. So I ended up in the hospital because I was supposed to get a colonoscopy. Like I said, they'd done all the tests. They've run all the things. The only thing they hadn't done was a colonoscopy. So it's like I had to pass several endoscopies. Just never had a colonoscopy because I was so young. You know, they don't really do colonoscopies when you're that young or whatever. But they was like, ma'am, this is the last resort. Like, if we don't find nothing on this colonoscopy thing, I don't know what to tell you. So I'm just like, God, please let them not necessarily find some or find some. You know what I'm saying? You don't want them to find anything, but you want them to find something so you can feel better. They can give you medicine. You go on about your way, right? And that's when I was officially diagnosed with Crohn's disease, you guys. Yes, Crohn's disease is what it ended up ultimately being. And I remember I was going in for the colonoscopy and I was so sick. I started the prep the night before, but I got so sick. I was vomiting all night. I was so dehydrated that I ended up getting admitted. And I didn't end up getting the colonoscopy on the day. The day I got admitted was the day I was supposed to have the colonoscopy as well. So I ended up getting admitted and staying in there for a week. And by the end of that visit, I was officially diagnosed with Crohn's disease at 35 years old, which if you don't know anything about Crohn's disease, that is a very odd age to get Crohn's disease. Usually get Crohn's disease when you're an adolescent or you're older, like over 60, 70, somewhere in those ages, not in your 30s. Like between, if you don't get it as a child and you don't get it as an old person, you're not supposed to get it. And so for me, I was an anomaly. Like I was a exception to the rule. I eventually kind of had an idea of why it manifested because he was like, well, it was probably in your body. He's like, but something helped it manifest at this age. We'll talk about that in another episode because we do need to understand, what this was and why it came about the way that it came. So yeah, but that was my getting to the diagnosis. And at the end of the day, you can be like, Keoshia, well, how can you be grateful in a crisis like that? How can you be grateful in a situation like that? Like now you have this disease, and now Crohn's is incurable. It's an incurable disease. I will have it for the rest of my life. I will be taking medicine until the day I die. Now you can go into remission and you can get off the medicine, but it will come back. Like there's nothing to prevent your flares. There's nothing to do anything besides medicine that suppresses your immune system, basically. I was on steroids for a little while until I got on a permanent medicine solution. But that was like the hardest year of my life, you guys. But like I said, being grateful isn't all about sunshines and rainbows. You can have happy times and be grateful, but the bad times, the down times, the scary times is when you truly, truly, truly look into being grateful for the things that you have in life. And while being told that I have Crohn's disease was a hard pill to swallow, I was actually relieved. I mean, to have an incurable disease is not something you would think that I would say I would be relieved about, but I was relieved of not being in the dark anymore about what was wrong with me. I was relieved knowing that now that we know what it is, we can create a plan. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know what's wrong with you, you can't create a plan. You can't get to a solution. You can't get to a stable place because they're just doing all the things. And not to say that they still don't have to do all the things, because every person who is diagnosed with Crohn's disease, symptoms are different. Their bodies react to medicine differently. That some people still have pains and multiple surgeries and this and that and the other, and body parts and things taken out and all the kind of things. So I wasn't relieved in the journey that I was going to have ahead of me, but I was relieved in knowing that now I know what it is. It wasn't just stress. It wasn't just a bug. It wasn't just my figment of my imagination. There truly was something wrong with me, and we finally found out what it is. So here's the thing. I'm in the hospital right after I get diagnosed, and I'm at this full relief, this full, like, God, thank you for, letting them find that's what's wrong with me. And in this quiet moment, I'm realizing that looking back over the last several months, how grateful I am for finding out that I have Crohn's disease and finally finding out what's wrong with me. But I also realized that I have taken a lot of things for granted, including the number one thing that I should never take for granted, and that's being alive. A lot of us take for granted that we will wake up the next day to be able to do life again. And that's just not the case for every day. We know that people die every single day. And with me going through this issue with my health, I didn't know if I would wake up every day. Those months, losing weight, looking like a crackhead, down to 125, vomiting, can't keep anything down. I didn't know if I was going to wake up every day. I was taking my life for granted. Simple things like sitting without pain or eating a meal without feeling like I'm going to be sick, or, realizing real quick how much you miss the small stuff when it's ripped away from you. Just the peace of going to bed without pain. Every night I went to bed for those months, I had a pain in my side to the point where I just had to deal with it. And I had to get sleep when I could, and I couldn't sleep when I couldn't. I took for granted all those peaceful nights of sleep. I took for granted all those days that I had no pain. I took for granted I couldn't even run anymore. I was so sick. Like, I couldn't even exercise to get my stress and relief out. And I loved to run at that point. I couldn't, go places, or I couldn't do things because I would be sick. I didn't know how I was going to feel. I didn't know how, I was going to react to whatever it was that was going on, because I didn't know what was going on. And I took every last bit of that for granted. And sitting in that hospital room, getting that diagnosis, and realizing that it could have been something even worse. Now, Crohn's disease, it can kill you, but it's not likely. You know what I'm saying? It's not leukemia. It's not, sickle cell anemia can kill you. Lupus can kill you. But it's not something that would ultimately take me out like I thought that I could have possibly had. Like I said, I'm working up every day with Russian roulette. Shit, am I going to wake up today or not? Sometimes we don't know how grateful we should be for the little things until we're close to losing it. Or have lost it. Like, I lost my nightly sleep. And y'all know I love to go to bed at 8:30 and I can't go to bed. I'd be pissed. I'd be mad. 38. Hell. I mean, peaceful nights. Not vomiting. Peaceful nights. Not pain in my stomach. Peaceful nights. Not feeling nauseous. Those were the little luxuries that I missed. It is, and that's things we take for granted. You probably don't think about that every night we go to sleep, that you're not going to bed with pain. You probably don't think about nothing like, oh, I can eat this and not vomit, or feel nauseous, or I don't have to take a shot every 2 weeks. I have to take a shot every 2 weeks for the rest of my life. I never imagined I would be a person who was not healthy. I took my health for granted. I took my don't need medicine, hardly ever to need a medicine every 2 weeks. A shot at that. So that moment, it changed me. It wasn't the diagnosis I wanted, but it gave me something else, a new perspective on life. Suddenly, everything that I had once trivial didn't feel so trivial anymore, right? It didn't feel small. It didn't feel minuscule. It was a lapse of luxury. Going to bed without pain, y'all, is the lab of function luxury. You hear me? Because I was in pain every night, probably for the whole year of 2016. Like, really? I mean, imagine being in pain every day for a whole year. And this is not for people who have, I think one of my friends, what does she have? I forgot what she calls it. She's in pain every day for the rest of her life. And for me to be uncomfortable being in pain every day for a year and finally getting a diagnosis and finally getting everything done and settled by the end of that year, to be able to start 2017 with painless, was something I was never going to take for granted ever again. And y'all know I be sleep at 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'm going to get my painless sleep, okay? I'm going to get it. And my life at that time wasn't guaranteed. And that was scary. You know, it's scary to think that you are not guaranteed to wake up every day. You know, we know these things. We see these things. But until it hits home, you don't realize these things. We know we see, but we don't realize until it hits so close to home. But it also pushed me to start appreciating everything, even the tough stuff. Do I want to have Crohn's disease? Do I want to take a shot for the rest of my life? Do I want to be sick sometimes when I don't feel like being sick? Do I want to deal with these health scans and these colonoscopies and these scans of my body and all the things I have to do in order to stay healthy? Get transfusions, iron fusions, take medicine. Do I want to do all that? No. But I also don't want to be dead. So even though it's tough, even though it's annoying, even though it gets on my nerves sometimes, and even though I still get sick sometimes, I'll take that over death every single day. I will never take not a day of my life for granted ever again. And that is probably going to be another series, but that kickstarted my journey to living life more. If you watch my vlog channel, you guys be like, Keoshia, you living your best life. You living your best life. This is why I'm living my best life. Because, baby, I almost didn't have no damn life. See? This is why I close my... Y'all almost didn't have no life. I was almost out of here. Like, gone. So I'm living my best life because it's the only life I got. And I almost didn't have it. So before we get too hectic, I know we deep down in there. Like I said, this is near dear to my heart. So listen, I know it's easy to talk about gratitude when things are going well. But when your world is turned upside down, gratitude feels like the last thing you want to talk about. I get it. I've been there. It's hard to feel thankful when you're trying to survive. But I'm here to tell you that gratitude can be your anchor. Being grateful during the hard times is an anchor. It might not fix everything, but it will ground you, okay? It will ground you. There's nothing grounding like I could be dead, okay? My anchor is solid. Do you hear me? Solid like a rock. And when life feels like it's falling apart, gratitude can be the one thing that keeps you steady. My life was falling the fucking apart in 2016. I mean, falling completely apart. Like, I didn't know if I was getting fired. I didn't know if I was going to lose my house. I didn't know if I was going to have to go on disability. Like, on and on and on. I didn't know if I could afford health care, because if I lose my job, then I ain't got health care. And I'm still sick. Like, it's a lot. But gratitude can ground you, because what I had to realize is that, Keoshia, you could not wake up tomorrow. You do not know what is wrong with you. You could die tomorrow. You could not wake up. And the fact that you're losing weight so fast, you look like you're losing weight, you sick every day, you throwing up every day. Girl, you could be out of here. And I had to look at it like, hey, I know I'm sick every day, but I woke up to be sick. And imagine trying to be hopeful and grateful during that time. It's so hard, y'all. It was so hard. When I say it was so hard, I just had really bad days where I was like, why me, Lord? Why me, Lord? Why me? But I would have to wake up in the morning and say, thank you, Jesus. For, even though I was griping and moaning yesterday about why me, thank you, Lord, for waking me up today to have another day of pain. just to have another day. With or without pain, it's still another day that I can see my children grow up, that I can see my mom, that I can see my niece, that I can see my friends, you know. Because back in 2016, I think my daughter was 10 and my son was 16. I could never have seen neither one of them graduate from high school or go to college. Like, that could have been it. My life could have ended in 2016. Like, literally. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I could be dead. And if that ain't something to be grateful for, I don't know what is. And it took, even though it took me a moment to be that grateful, I got there. You know, I got there. And here's the thing. You don't need a sickness or a miracle or anything like that to practice gratitude. Start small. Be grateful for the breath in your lungs, for the fact that you're still here, for the people who love you and support you, for the sun that rises every day, no matter what's going on. Here's something I started doing when I was in the hospital. Every morning I would write down 3 things that I was grateful for. I wish I would have kept that notebook, y'all. I think I kept a notebook for the whole year of 2016. I didn't tell anybody. And I want to say I either lost it somewhere because I don't know where it is. But I did. Every morning I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital for a week. And I would write what I was grateful for, big or small. And I know every day, the first thing I would write is thank you for being alive. That was the first thing. Every single day, that's what I wrote. Because, like I said, I couldn't be alive. That was the most grateful thing I could ever be grateful for. It wasn't always easy, but even on my toughest days, I found something. Like I said, the first thing, being alive. The other 2 things was pretty hard to find something to be grateful for every day. I didn't want to write the same thing every day besides being alive. I felt like that was just something I need to be grateful for every day. But finding 2 other things was bad. I remember one of my things that I was grateful that I was finally able to eat solid food. Because I remember when I was in there, it was nothing by mouth. Like, I literally couldn't eat nothing. Because, like I said, I was going to have a colonoscopy, so you couldn't eat. And so I remember I was able to get something to eat, y'all. I remember I was like, I'm so ready to get out of this hospital. I need me some grits, some eggs, some bacon. And so the day that I was able to finally eat, man, I wrote that down. I was grateful for grits and eggs. And I was grateful for a soda because it was like water, clear liquids. That was it, or IV. And so I was so grateful. But I found something every day, even though it was tough. And some of the things, like I said, was small and minuscule. But at that time in my life, was it really minuscule? Your girl hadn't eaten for 4 days. So the fact that I was grateful that I was able to eat solid food was fantastic. To other people, they were like, oh, that's not something to be grateful for. Yes, the hell it is when you can't have nothing to eat. Grateful as fuck. Okay. It wasn't always easy, like I said, but on my toughest days, I found something. A moment of peace, a kind nurse, a text from a friend, little things add up. So if you're in a crisis right now, take a minute and think, what can you be grateful for today? Even if it's just that you're still standing, that's just enough. So like I said, it's not easy to find gratitude when life throws punches at you, uppercuts and all, but that's exactly when it matters the most. It's about seeing the good and the bad things and finding the lessons in the struggles. When you're in the storm, you don't have to wait for it to pass to appreciate the calm moments. Start right where you are. All right, you guys, so I want to hear from you. If you're going through a season of a wake-up call or a tough time in your life, how did you find gratitude? Share your story with me on social media using the hashtag Kandidly Keoshia or drop me a message. Let's encourage each other. All right, you guys, so we're going to go ahead and wind down today's episode. Next time, we'll be diving into the search for answers and how the people around you and your support system can help you when you're at your lowest. It's all about the power of leaning on others and being grateful for the ones who show up. You won't want to miss it. So until next time, remember, gratitude isn't just for the good times. It's for every moment you're still here. Keep fighting, keep loving, and always keep being real. Catch you next time on Kandidly Keoshia.